HARK, we are here. It is time for another episode of Star Wars Unlimited Regroup Phase. We got a lot of previews today. We have a planetary qualifier update, some interesting stuff to go over there. I'm not sick. My allergies have been heavily affecting me due to the fluctuating temperatures over the last week or so, and they're going to continue to get worse as the temperature continues to fluctuate. So if I'm low energy, that's why. Also, the first time I attempted to record this whole batch of things, I got halfway through about 30 minutes worth of content, and I realized that I had not muted a stream that I was watching, so all the audio was dead, and I wasn't going to sit there and re-record it in terms of like just splicing audio in. So a lot of these observations are technically second pass observations, sometimes third pass observations. That's what you're going to expect in this episode of Regroup with Ace. Thank you very much for joining me, everybody. Appreciate each and every one of you. Let's get right into this first preview. Our first preview comes by way of the lads over there at the Jodo cast. Link in the description below to their preview video. This is a really cool unit that will mesh with the leader we'll see later. But right off the bat, we have Wolf Pack Escort, a 1-cost Cunning Heroism Space Unit, 2 power, 1 health, Republic Vehicle Fighter. When played, you may return a friendly non-leader, non-vehicle unit to its owner's hand. This is a common number 191 out of 257 in TWI. Wolfpack Escort, cheap unit. It's a 2-1 in space. It has decent space stats. It's not going to take out every space unit it comes up against, but there is some combo potential with its when played and be able to return things back to your hand so you can play them again, or save a Sentinel, replay the Sentinel, whatever the case may be. And it's only a 1 cost, so you can still kind of upscale your curve a little bit. If you're on 4, you can pull a 3 back and then play it again, so on and so forth. Give yourself a little bit of tempo when it comes to exchanging actions, forcing your opponent to do the important stuff first, then you can do your important stuff thereafter. It's neat stuff. This is one of the Clone Wars era's Z95s. I like the design of the thicker design of it a little bit better than the original one, but the original one is just so iconic with that X-Wing sleek look. The Clone Wars stuff was basically just, this is what we had in the original trilogy, but more armor. So if you look at the Y-Wing, if you look at the Z95, it's basically this, but more armor. Anyway, cool looking ship, great stuff. Great things going on with the Wolfpack Escort. Combos with our first leader, which we will see later. Our second preview comes by way of Unlimited FFG Socials, link in the description below. It's a 7-cost Jedi. It's not going to replace Luke, but it does give Republic decks an interesting option. We have here Luminara Unduli, soft-spoken master, 7-cost Cunning Heroism ground unit, 4 power, 9 health, Force Jedi and Republic traits, coordinate grit. When played, choose a base. Heal 1 damage from it for each unit you control. This is a rare, number 50 out of 257 in TWI. I love that this is a rare. I love that this is a 4/9. I love that it has a relevant when played effect. 7 cost is probably a little bit much for these stats, even though 9 health is very good for a 7-cost unit. I think what will probably set this as either a very playable unit or something that goes above its playability in its cost is definitely the grit. This is the coordinate effect that you want to see on coordinate stuff, where at least if you just took the coordinate grit off this unit, it would still be playable because it's healing your base. Or, fun fact, if you're trying to get a Twin Suns game to go on longer, you can heal one of your opponent's bases, so that way the game goes to at least another round thereafter and you can secure the victory there. Regardless, Luminara comes down as a 4/9. She can go all the way up to technically a 12/1 with that coordinate grit, but you do need to have the extra units on the side. Some token applicators will help with this. Captain Rex as a unit will give you that activated automatically. Batch Brothers, same thing. It is weak to the fact that your opponent can just either use their single removal piece on Luminara herself or use a widespread board impact event or units to be able to eliminate multiple different things and lock this coordinate down. So it'll be interesting to see how Luminara sees play. She's definitely not better than Luke, but she's like that Maul, a side grade to what's possible and probably better for Republic strategies. But it is an additional Jedi if you want to run a bunch of Jedi or Force units in your Vigilance deck, and that's pretty darn good. Next up, our next preview comes by way of Roll On Gaming. Linked to their preview in the description below. Kevin and Corwin have a fun talk about this card. We're going to have a fun talk about this card. It's an interesting aggression event. Let's check it out. We have here Self-Destruct. This is a 2-cost aggression ability tactic event. Defeat a friendly unit. If you do, deal 4 damage to a unit. This is an uncommon, number 140 out of 257 in TWI. This is basically another tool in the package of tools that's available to aggression. You could run this in double aggression if you're not running any other backups. You could run this in something that wants to see your units be defeated, so that way they get extra effects. We're seeing a lot of really cool when defeated abilities that will either refresh what has been defeated by dropping another battle droid, or when defeated, deal damage to an opponent's base, so on and so forth. This can effectively be a 2-for-1, technically a 2-for-2, depending on what's actually moving around. And because it does deal 4 damage to a unit, it does come down cheaper than open fire, but you still have to sacrifice one of your own units in order to be able to do that. So as we get more effects that have more powerful when defeated effects and are worth actually doing something like this, that gets a lot better. This is a very good limited tool because you'll have plenty of units to be able to defeat, to deal that 4 damage to one of your opponent's units, and that's going to open the gate for you to be able to do things. Take out a tough sentinel, take out one of your opponent's big bomb units that's already got a little bit of damage on it, deal some more damage to bring your opponent's leader into range of being able to defeat it, all those different types of things. So Self-Destruct is a good card. It's kind of like the 3rd tier tool of tools available in aggression, but as we get different things, it'll probably slide into some decks in the main deck or in the side deck, and as other cards get better, it slides out. This is going to be one of those evergreen cards that'll come in and out of meta depending on what is available and what is necessary for you to use to be able to defeat your opponent in any given game. Our first leader of the week, as all leaders, comes to us by way of Unlimited FFG Socials, link in the description below. He's a Republic leader. He's a Cunning leader. It's our first Cunning heroism leader. We're checking out today Quinlan Vos, sticking the landing. Cunning heroism Force Jedi Republic trait leader. When you play a unit, you may exhaust this leader. If you do, deal 1 damage to an enemy unit that costs the same as the played unit. He flips on 5 into a 3/7, which is great stats. He is a common, number 18 out of 257 in TWI. Unit side, he comes in when you play a unit, you may deal 1 damage to an enemy unit that costs the same as or less than the played unit. So Vos is about using your units to control your opponent's units once per round on the leader side when he's not deployed, but when he's on his unit side and deployed, you can do it multiple times in a round. This is where that Wolfpack Escort comes in, because Wolfpack Escort can come in, you can, if Quinlan Vos is on his unit side, you can ping one of your opponent's 1-drops or less, which includes those tokens because they're all 0 cost, for 1, clear a battle droid or deal a damage to a clone trooper token, play another unit, whatever cost that you just bounced back with your Wolfpack Escort, and deal damage to another unit that's on your opponent's side of the board that has the same cost or less. So Quinlan Vos doesn't actually trigger his own effect because while he is entering play, he's not technically being played. I know that's a weird consideration. It's just the way that they wanted to balance the game. I could be wrong on that. I'm pretty sure I'm not, though, because there are other interactions that work the same way. So we're just going to say, for the sake of this episode, Quinlan Vos does not trigger his own ability. But it is cool that Quinlan Vos's unit side does allow you to do it more than once per turn. So this is that CAD effect where you have more direct control over it, but a little bit more restriction. So it's not a specific unit being played, but it is a specific unit being targeted. I think this leader's great. Having 3/7 on 5 means that he's going to have really good survival stats. His damage output's going to be low, but if you can buff him, throw a surprise strike on him, throw a general's blade, throw a Jedi's lightsaber, whatever you want to run, Vos is going to be able to take that and do the extra damage with it. And that's going to be very relevant for you to be able to do things. And with that general's blade, if you're using it, you can cheat out some of your higher cost units at lower cost with that discount that you get from general's blade, which allows you to utilize his ability to damage things that you wouldn't have been able to otherwise damage when he does his flip or the turn thereafter. Vos is going to be a great leader, especially in limited. This is probably going to be one of the better ones to play right off the bat. I think a lot of people are looking at Obi-Wan Kenobi as one of the premier draft leaders. I think Vos is going to have better control of the board with his abilities, both front side and unit side. And you know what? He's a cool dude. Edgelord Jedi, but you know, everybody loves an Edgelord Jedi. Right Anakin lovers, right Maul lovers, right Revan lovers. Last week, we finished off our rare bases, so the new Twitter vote coming by way of Unlimited FFG Socials is double single aspect cards. We have a legendary double Cunning unit because Cunning is the most popular aspect of the game, apparently. And here we are. We have Chancellor Palpatine, wartime Chancellor. 4 cost double cunning ground unit, 2 power, 6 health, Republic official. Each token unit you create enters play ready. That's pretty big. On attack, if the unit left play this phase, create a clone trooper token. This is a legendary, number 203 out of 257 in TWI. Our second just right out of the pack banger legendary coming down for cunning, and Chancellor Palpatine is quite good. A 4 cost 2/6 is about middling stats, but the fact that he sets all of your tokens that enter play, sets them ready so they can actively impact the game the turn they come into play. And then when you attack, if any unit left play, not just your side, you can exploit things to make your units leave. You can attack into your opponent's units to make them leave. You can return your opponent's units back to their hand. They can do the same thing to you. However the unit leaves play, Chancellor Palpatine will create a clone trooper token, which then also enters play ready because of his own effect and can affect the board from there on out. Palpatine is going to be a great unit that is played across all of these token type strategies, so long as you are playing double cunning. Right now, I think the only realistic way to do that is with the Separatists, because they have a lot of their good token applicators in villainy. They have a lot of really good token applicators in cunning, some of which already come into play ready, but that's not that big of a deal. And right now the Republic is sitting at one thing in cunning that generates a token, and that it does mesh with Palpatine because it does exhaust something, but you have better things like No Good to Me Dead that are in villainy that are going to stick with being better in that deck. So Palpatine's a great unit here, probably going to end up seeing a lot of play if those double cunning Separatist decks do a lot of work. This is not something you're going to see in double cunning Boba unless Boba for some reason just switches into the all token strategy, which is possible but not really likely. Maybe CAD, but not underworld units. Potentially a cunning villainy leader that's not Grievous could utilize something like this. I don't know. It just depends on what ends up being really good in cunning, because it is double cunning and you don't want to overpay for this. Next up, we have 2 previews coming by way of Roll for Crit. They're both aggression units. They're both good units and don't rely on coordinate, which makes them even better. First up, we have Anakin's Interceptor, Where the Fun Begins. A 2-cost aggression heroism space unit, 2 power, 3 health, 4 traits, Jedi, Republic vehicle, and fighter. While your base is 15 or more damage on it, this unit gets +2/+0, an uncommon, number 142 out of 257 in TWI. I understand the effect of this kind of represents a stunning move on the Republic, the attack on Coruscant of Grievous kidnapping the Chancellor, which was planned, obviously, because of course it was. So that's why Anakin's Interceptor doesn't get the buff until you're effectively losing. But even still, this is a decent unit, a 2/3. It's going to be able to take out some of the lower costs. This is going to replace the Alliance X-Wing in every heroism deck that runs aggression. A lot of different synergies with Republic, with Jedi. The fact that this is a Jedi vehicle is also kind of interesting, something to think about for the future. But if you get to the mid game and you've got damage on your base and Anakin helps you close it out, that 4 power will do work and will help you get that extra damage in onto your opponent's base. Great art. Love the ETA2 Interceptor, Actus Interceptor. Fantastic vehicle here. You get the CR2D2 and all the fun stuff of the Battle of Coruscant. This is a fantastic card, and like I said, doesn't rely on coordinate, so it's already got a plus there. Speaking of Anakin, the second preview from Roll for Crit is one of his clone troopers, and again, doesn't rely on coordinate and is pretty dang solid. We have here Soldier of the 501st, a 1-cost aggression heroism ground unit, 1 power, 3 health, Republic clone trooper, raid 1, common, number 141 out of 257 in TWI. This is technically not as good as a unit of like Green Squadron A-Wing because that gets raid 2 and it's in space, but that also costs 2. You can play 2 of these on round 1 and have 2 2/3s ready to go that have no downside whatsoever other than they don't clap back for 2 damage when attacked into. But if you can get 2 of these out and something else that gives a bonus based upon other units with a coordinate, that's a pretty solid round 1, round 2 play. But independent of coordinate altogether, it's a clone trooper, it's got raid, it's a 1/3, it only costs 1. This is a fantastic card that's probably going to see play in just about every single aggression heroism deck that wants to run Republic or clones or troopers. We're seeing a lot of non-heroism, non-villainy troopers exist, and this does give a little bit of boost to anything that wants to run more heroism leaning. Art itself, fantastic. Kyle Pachak, great artist that does armor really well. Love these clones, love the style. Everything about this card is amazing to me. So definitely a very strong limited card. We'll see if it ends up seeing a lot of play in decks that are based in Premier around Republic. Obviously, a card like Spec Force Soldier eliminating Sentinel is going to be a lot stronger overall than Soldier of the 501st. But if you can get a bunch of clones into play and just attack, Soldier of the 501st helps with that. Survives a little bit longer than a Clone Trooper token, costs less than a Clone Trooper token, and it's just a banger all around. Next up, we have a preview, another preview from Unlimited FFG Socials. It's another Cunning villainy unit, but one that has some conflicting strategies involved. We have here Sandhill, Chairman of the Banking Clan, a 6-cost Cunning villainy ground unit, 3 power, 7 health, Separatist official, exploit 3, so you can bring this down to 0 cost if you exploit 3 units. On attack, for each friendly unit that was defeated this phase, ready a friendly resource. This is a rare number 186 out of 257 in TWI. The thing about Sandhill is that his stats are not great for a 6-cost. 3/7 is something lacking. That on attack is supposed to be able to back up his cost in that you can restore your resources when he attacks. So you'll do something with your resources. Attack, if you've lost some units, you can do some extra stuff. But he himself doesn't aid that because the exploit, unless you're ambushing this in with timely intervention or energy conversion lab, the exploit he uses doesn't help you the phase he comes into play. You're losing 3 units to potentially to play Sandhill, whereas you want to be losing 3 units and then attack with Sandhill. So unless you're ambushing this in, his effect isn't going to give you a lot of strength by itself. He's going to need to be on the board. You're going to need to exploit something else and then attack with him to be able to get those resources back, which will give you some tempo to do some extra things. But the 2 different type lines for his effect are very conflicting, and I don't know that this is going to see a lot of play moving forward. It could. It's Separatist, it's villainy, it's in Cunning. A lot of these decks that I think are going to do very well with the tokens are going to be Command Cunning. So this might be a 1 or 2 of just to float in there and get it going. If one of the Cunning villainy leaders that's not Grievous ends up being very strong and you can run that ECL, I think this does go up a little bit higher. But as it stands right now, with Dooku, I think being the premier Separatist token leader, because he is giving you extra options for exploits and you can generate the tokens with other things, I'm not sure Sandhill is up to snuff. Next up, we have a preview from the Hobbyist Novice. Link in the description below to that video, which also has a very fun interview with Xander Tabler. Go check that out. We have a Cunning event. I can't say anything more about Cunning. It's just every set it comes out to be one of the best aspects out of 4, which is not hard when there's only 4, but you know what I mean. We have here Political Pressure, a 1-cost Cunning plan event. Choose an opponent. They may discard a card at random from their hand. If they don't, create 2 Battle Droid tokens. This is a common number 222 out of 257 in TWI. Along the lines of the last card we were talking about, and specifically talking about combinations, Command, Cunning, Villainy, Separatist strategies are just bonkers right now. I think they have the gas that is going to be required in order to be able to move forward, utilizing a couple of these staple strategies or cards from previous sets to move things forward. Overwhelming Barrage, No Good to Me Dead. Political Pressure comes out and says, cool, you need to discard a card from your hand or I'm gaining advantage in terms of units on the board. And both of those are bad for your opponent. And the reason why this is very good is because your opponent doesn't choose the card they discard and they don't refresh the card they discard. It is a random card, so it could hit their thing they need that round, or it could hit something they need in a later round that is not as easily get backable. Or if they're fine having you the tokens, you're still getting tokens to be able to do extra things with exploit. 1 cost brings 2 battle droids into the field, which effectively brings you up 1 resource because each battle droid token does cost about 1 resource in terms of advantage with other things that you're doing. And Political Pressure is just cool. Here's 2 bad things. Pick the worst one for me. Both of which are going to be very good for you because your opponent not having access to their own resources in hand is good. You having more access to your own resources and units on the board is also good. There is no downside to Political Pressure whatsoever. This card's going to be everywhere when it comes to hand disruption strategies because it doesn't have a villainy or a heroism aspect, so it could be used in either deck. It's going to be everywhere in Limited. Draft and Sealed, this card's going to be absolutely nuts as long as you're playing Cunning. And as we've said before, with droids stay winning, Cunning stays winning. Next up, we've got 3 previews coming by way of the FFG live stream, doing some Twilight of the Republic gameplay. We got 3 cool cards here, 3 interesting cards here. Go out and check that video. Link in the description below to that stream. There was some really cool gameplay going on there between decks and strategies that might be spinning out of Twilight of the Republic that you might be interested in checking out yourself. We're going to start right off with this first event, though. This is Bold Resistance, a 3-cost aggression heroism tactic event. Choose up to 3 units that share the same traits. Each of those units get +2/+0 for this phase. This is an uncommon number 153 out of 257 in TWI. This helps heroism decks that run a lot of the same traits. So Trooper, Republic, Rebel, Spectre, technically, if you're running Aggression as your backup thing for hero. Force, if you're running something like Rey or Han and having a lot of Force units in there. There's a lot of cool traits that do run lots of multiple units that are across the board. The downside is that you don't get to do anything immediately. It just gives them all +2/+0. So your opponent has multiple opportunities thereafter to respond to mitigate the extra damage that this might be doing. The reason why headhunting doesn't see play, even though you can attack with up to 3 bounty hunter units and they get +2, if I remember correctly, is that it can't attack the base. So if you're not able to get extra overwhelm out with those bounty hunters, that doesn't end up being a very good card because you're just clearing out your opponent's units without putting any pressure onto your opponent's base. Bold Resistances gives you that opportunity to do that, but you don't get any of the attacks, so your opponent's able to respond immediately when it comes to that. So we'll see if this sees play. I don't think it does. Limited, sure. Draft and Sealed, very decent card to be able to pull, especially since you're going to be running a lot of the same trait, because a lot of the same traits do show up in this set, which I've said already. It's one of those 50-50 cards. Could be good, could be bad. I'm leaning more towards not as playable. The second event we have is a draw event. And this has some very interesting implications for not just Limited, but also Premier. We have Private Manufacturing, a 2-cost aspectless supply event. Draw 2 cards. If you control no token units, put 2 cards from your hand at the bottom of your deck in any order. This is an uncommon number 257 out of 257 in TWI, so we've seen the last card of the set. Private Manufacturing is absolutely incredible in Sealed and Draft, all the Limited for specifically Twilight of the Republic, because you're going to be running a lot of tokens. So this is effectively a 2-cost draw 2. In Premier, throwing those cards on the bottom of the deck is not going to be that big of a deal, and it does give you the option to filter, which we talked about filter being very good in the past, and we also know that the developers seem to overcost just straight draw across the board, either requiring a tricksy way of getting the card draw itself with something like Cassian, or overcosting it in terms of the amount of resources you have to pay to get those drawn cards. 2 for 2 is fantastic. You get to be able to pull 2 cards off the top of your deck, filter whatever you don't need if you don't have tokens. But if you are playing tokens, which a lot of people are going to try the token strategies, at least for the first couple of weeks, this card ends up being just a draw 2 for 2. With no other downside whatsoever. And I argue that this isn't even really a downside. It's just I don't need these now. I'll save these for later when it comes time. And if for some reason you're able to fish a card out of your deck and shuffle, those might come up earlier than you would otherwise expect. So I think this is going to be a very interesting card, much like Restock. It might be a sideboard card for a while, might end up being in main decks for token decks, especially if they need to get more cards out for things like Exploit. Or it could just be one of those things that's like in a matchup where they know the game's going to go long. They want to draw those cards to be able to end the game quicker, and throwing those cards on the bottom of the deck aren't going to be that big of an issue. Our last preview from the FFG live stream is a Separatist unit that has Exploit, but its value in Premier is going to be kind of wonky. We have here Tri-Droid Suppressor, a 7-cost Cunning ground unit, 4 power, 7 health, Separatist droid, vehicle, and walker. Exploit 2, so this can come out for 3 if you sacrifice 2 of your own units. When played, exhaust an enemy ground unit. This is a common number 217 out of 257 in TWI. Tri-Droid Suppressor is an interesting unit. Its stats at 4, 7 for 7 are absolutely terrible, so you're never going to play it for that. I think at 5 it's okay, but at 3 it should be a lot better. And being able to exhaust one of your opponent's ground units while playing this and removing a couple of your own off the board should be an interesting way of balancing the power that you're getting versus the power that you're trying to stop your opponent from getting. I think the thing for me here is that exhausting really only sets an opponent back around, if that at all. And what you're going to want to do is probably save this for the turn your opponent's leader comes out. You can suppress the leader, be able to still do just other stuff with your board at the time, and hopefully have the units to be able to exploit off the board to get this out for 3, which allows you to do something else. The Suppressor is an interesting card. It's not the greatest card. You'll probably see a few of these in limited environments, draft and sealed, but overall the playability of this card is, again, a little dubious, much like some of the previous cards we've seen so far this week. Next up, we have our second leader of the week, as always, courtesy of Unlimited FFG Socials, link in the description below. We have our rare command villainy leader, and his name is Wat Tambor, Techno Union Foreman. Command Villainy, Separatist Official Traits. Action, exhaust the leader. If a friendly unit was defeated this phase, give a unit +2/+2 for the phase. For 5 resources, Epic Action, you flip into a 3/6. This is a rare number 006 out of 257 in TWI. He flips into a 3/6. 5 costs, yada yada, all the other stuff. On attack, if a friendly unit was defeated this phase, you may give another unit +2/+2 for the phase. Wat Tambor, Techno Union guy, completely on me. Very underwhelming, very underwhelming, very interruptible effect. Your opponent has all the time in the world to be able to interact with the unit that you are giving +2/+2, and you have to have a unit on the board in order to be able to use this effect, and one of your units has to be defeated in order to be able to use this effect. With something like Newt Gunray's leader ability being able to put out a token, there's a refreshment there. You can lose units in various different ways and be able to put something else on the board without having to have any other stuff. Wat Tambor at least needs another unit on the board to give the power to, and then on top of that, he himself, his stats are a little underwhelming on the 5 cost side. We're seeing a lot of leaders kind of fluctuate their power and health, where Quinlan Vos is a 3/7 on 5, Wat Tambor is a 3/6 on 5. We've seen before with Harkin and Krennic on 5, they're 2/7s, but Leia's a 3/6, which is technically a 4/6 on attack. I would love to see the calculations on why they think certain abilities are worth more than others. I would say this ability that's here on this unit, absolutely not worth the reduction in power or health that could be on a unit like this. Bosk is a 4/6 for 5, and his ability is insane. Wat Tambor here does give you an option of powering up a unit that you're going to be able to help get the extra board wipe, extra power on your board wipe for something like Overwhelming Barrage, but that's taking a good card and just making it better. It's a win more for that, rather than this wins things, right? So I'm very underwhelmed by Wat Tambor. I don't think this leader is going to see a whole lot of play, but if someone breaks it in half, congratulations. You saw something that seemed generally underwhelming at first. Over this past weekend, Spiel in Germany occurred. FFG brought a presentation with some interesting stuff, some fun stuff, some controversial stuff. We're going to talk about the fun preview stuff first and the controversial things later. We'll smack that in with the planetary qualifier, try to get everything all nice and neat there. We got 3 cards here. 2 cards that are fairly interesting designs, and 1 card that is going to drive me insane when I have to deal with it in real life situations, because people like to be pedantic about what random means. Let's start with Admiral Trench, Holding the Line. This is a 7 cost command villainy ground units, 5 power, 5 health, Separatist Official, exploit 1 so he can come down for 5. When played, return up to 3 units that were defeated this phase from your discard pile to your hand. I don't know the number. I want to say it's 98 out of 257, and uncommon. That's probably 68. I'm not sure. Numbers are kind of irrelevant for most of you. Admiral Trench is actually a fairly interesting design in that it works like what people want the Emperor's Legion to, but Trench gives you a body to be able to do it with. So if you've lost some units that are not tokens in the turn that you want to play Trench, and you exploit something that's also not a token, you can get back up to the 3 of those to your hand with Trench's ability. Bringing him down as a 5/5 for 5, that's a pretty good deal. Like, Poe is a 5 cost 6/6, which is incredibly unbalanced, but he does exist as a unique unit. Trench at least gets you things back to your hand so that you can continue your exploit train, be able to do things, so long as those units were defeated this phase. So I like the design of Trench a lot. It's not going to be a continuous cycle of things, but it should be an interesting cycle enough to be able to do stuff. Heck, you could throw Trench, get some units back, and on your next round, if more units die, you could overlay a Trench with another Trench, get Trench back, and 2 other things that also died that phase, because Trench himself will have died as well. And then, boom, you're good to go. And that's an interesting design. Our second card from Spiel is another Cunning legendary unit, but this time it's for heroism. We have Ahsoka Tano, always ready for trouble, 3 cost Cunning heroism ground unit, 3 power, 4 health, Force, Jedi, Republic traits. While you control fewer units than an opponent, including this unit gains ambush. As an action for 2 resources, you return this unit and each upgrade on her to their owner's hands. This is number 194 out of 257, a legendary in TWI. 3/4 for 3. It's Ezra stats. It's good, but if she's the only unit you play, as long as your opponent has 2 units on the board, which if you're playing token strategies, they will. If you're playing against go wide strategies, they will. You can ambush into this, and you're cool. 3 damage for 3, keeping a unit on the board is pretty decent. She's a legendary. A lot of these low-cost legendaries are very troubling a little bit, because it means that you do have to spend a lot more effort to try to get just general good cards into your decks. Whereas if this were like a rare or an uncommon, it would sit with me a little bit better, honestly. Kylo's TIE Silencer is in that similar vein, even though I don't think that unit is as good as something like Ahsoka. It is a 2 cost 3/2. This is a 3 cost 3/4. The stats are kind of pushed on these cards. I hate using that term. But overall, Ahsoka Tano is a very good card because you do get that ambush and you can take her back to hand if you have the resources and she doesn't die to be able to do it again. So it'll be interesting to see how this affects the overall meta. Ahsoka coming in with Quinlan Vos is actually a pretty decent combo because you can start pinging every round a 3 cost if you're pulling this back to hand and able to play it in that same round, or play Ahsoka, ping on the next round, bring her back on the round following that, deploy your Vos, ping with Ahsoka, pull her back, do whatever else, right? So it should be an interesting card, seeing some decent play moving forward. Next up, a card that is the bane of my existence. We have here Jar Jar Binks' Foolish Gungan. 2 cost, double cunning ground unit, 2 power, 3 health, Gungan trait. On attack, deal 2 damage to a random unit or base. This is an uncommon number 202 out of 257 in TWI. Ryback, why is this the bane of your existence? It's not because it's a meme, although it is a meme card. I don't really care about that. It's fine. People get Jar Jar. They can be happy and pop off and be Jar Jar stands, right? I don't really care. The thing that bothers me is this on attack. On attack, deal 2 damage to a random unit or base. It has been clarified that the pool of things, it's not randomized unit or base. It's random selection from all available units or bases. So that means your units, your opponent's units, your opponent's base, and your base. So ideally, before you attack with this card, you designate what the order is going to be. For me personally, we're going to go left to right, back to front. So my base, left to right units on my board, left to right units on my opponent's board, and then my opponent's base. And then I'm going to roll a die or use a random number generator on my phone, right? Whatever the case may be. This card, thankfully, it's a double cunning, which means it's not going to see too much play because it can hit itself. You really aren't going to be doing this unless you're just trying to meme on people, which is fine. Be the meme. This isn't going to see a whole lot of competitive play because it's not that good of a unit to see competitive play. There are plenty of other things you'd want to run at 2 cost that aren't a 2/3 with a kind of a junk effect, right? My piece of advice, don't be a jerk about this card. Play it, do whatever, be very clear about your randomization selection, be very clear about what's going to happen before you do anything, and then stick with that for the rest of the game and the rest of the time that you use the card. Cool? Cool. Moving away from memes, next up, courtesy of Unlimited FFG, we have another real good command villainy separatist unit that generates droid tokens. We have Poggle the Lesser, Archduke of the Stalgassian Hive. 2 cost, command, villainy, ground unit, 1 power, 4 health, separatist official. When you play another unit, you may exhaust this unit. If you do, create a battle droid token. This is a rare number 08080 out of 257 in TWI. Automatic 3 of in every Count Dooku deck. Automatic 3 of in every separatist deck that runs command and villainy, because Poggle the Lesser just gives you battle droids for playing the game. You play them round 1, round 2, you play your battle droid escort, you exhaust Poggle the Lesser, you get a droid token. So now you've got 3 units that are available for exploit on the board, ready to go. Bada boom ba. You don't need anything else other than obviously things to exploit. Really fun strategy. Poggle the Lesser into battle droid escort into Squadron of Vultures, which nets you Poggle, a battle droid token from the sacrifice of the battle droid escort, and then the vultures in space ready to go. Zip zop zoop, bang boom, you're blasting away, right? Droids stay winning. I need to put this on a shirt. Like that needs to be a brand. Droids stay winning. Next up, we have a preview courtesy of Wooooo over on YouTube. Link in the description below to his video. Go check it out. We have here another card from the future, which is really cool. It'll be an interesting unit to see play in decks. We have Morgan Elspeth, Keeper of Many Secrets. 4 cost, villainy, vigilance, ground unit. 3 power, 6 health, force, imperial, and official traits. Restore 1, fantastic. On attack, you may defeat another friendly unit. If you do, draw a card. This is a rare, number 35 out of 257 in TWI. One note interesting to me here, does not have the knight trait, which surprises me. Somebody had said that it could be that this was just based off promo materials for Ahsoka and not based off the full episode, which kind of makes sense because we do have that Sabine, which is also from Ahsoka, but, you know, lightsaber, and that also could have just been promotional material. But Elspeth, I think it's going to see a lot of play. She turns on the Sentinel of the Royal Guard. She's a Force. She's an Imperial. She's a Vigilance. She's going to go basically in every clean Vigilance villainy deck that can run her because she does a lot of different things. You can defeat another friendly unit and draw a card. Vigilance likes to do damage to their own stuff to draw cards. Morgan Elspeth will basically do the same thing over and over and over until it's time to basically defeat your opponent with all that card advantage you have. Love this card. Think it's cool. Should see a lot of play. Bada boom. Previews are finished. Lots of cool stuff. Some not so cool stuff. That's what happens with cards. Obviously, not everything's going to be a banger. We had a presentation at Spiel talking about the stuff that's coming in Star Wars Unlimited. We saw the card previews, but there was a new product that was featured that's going to start with Jump the Lightspeed that has caused a lot of consternation with the community, and I think it's absolutely unnecessary. So let's get into what this is, what it could be, and what it's probably going to be going forward. We have here our first vision of a product from Jump the Lightspeed. First of all, TIE Advanced on here, probably Vader's TIE Advanced. Maybe our first hint that we're going to be getting Space Leaders. I would hope so. That'd be cool. I like space. This is the Carbonite edition of Jump to Lightspeed, the ultimate premium pack for collectors. There's 12 booster packs in this thing, and we basically know what this is. They're collector's boosters like they are in Magic the Gathering. Now, before you fly off the handle and say this is the worst thing for gaming and corporate greed's getting in the way of being able for us to play our card game, shut up. Just shut up, okay? Listen, let's be rational. Collector's boosters are generally expensive. They're for the high-ticket people to be able to open up and get some cool shiny cards, and whatever they don't want, they basically flood back into the market as a secondary market things. When collector's boosters first came out, they were pretty divisive in the community for Magic the Gathering, but overall they've actually gone off pretty well outside of the general cost of them. Purchasing a collector's booster is never actually a good thing for the value of a single booster, and I think the value of a single box is also probably not the greatest return of your investment if you're looking for just cool cards, right? Or cards of specific value, right? If you're looking for just cool cards, do what you want, right? Singles probably still best, but you can do collector's boosters. I have bought collector's boosters. I like the product as a concept, but the cost of it is always wildly out of pace of what the cards should be priced for what's actually in there. But I've spent a bunch of money on them. I'll probably spend some money on these depending on what's actually in them. But ideally, what's going to come in the Carbonite edition of these is going to be foil versions of commons, uncommons, and rares. We'll probably get some hyperspace cards that are in here. We'll probably get some treatments that are not necessarily going to be in the regular booster packs, but likely nothing. I could almost guarantee there's nothing that's going to be mechanically unique in these because they've talked about not having any of those things outside of regular booster packs. So shouldn't have to worry about that. And basically special versions of cards that you wouldn't get in regular boosters otherwise, or you have a higher chance of getting them in these. So foils, hyperspace, hyperfoils, almost guaranteed for these. We might see a new Carbonite type card frame, similar maybe to what we've seen for the convention edition of cards, which would be pretty cool, honestly. You might have an opportunity of being able to pull a showcase out of these, which would be really cool. You might be able to pull a different version of a showcase out of these, which would also be pretty cool. But ultimately, this is a product that's designed for people to buy, to open, and enjoy the experience of collecting the stuff. And anything that those players or people or collectors don't want, they're going to sell on the secondary market, which means it's going to be easier to get access to cards that you wouldn't have otherwise. And that leaves the regular booster product for people like me, who just opens a case for collection, or people like individuals who want to play limited, sealed, and draft, who have the product on the shelf in order to be able to do that. These things are going to fly. They're going to be really good. They're probably going to be expensive, probably 4, 5, maybe even 6 times the price of a regular booster. That's just what happens with these types of things. It's not bad. It does put more money in the pockets of the people that are making the game so they can continue making the game. This will be the thing that goes off the shelves, and our regular boosters, booster boxes and stuff like that that we have, those are going to be the things that stick around and stay, so that way they stay in production and are easier for players to get their hands on to build collections around. So this is not a bad sign for the game. In my opinion, this is a great sign for the game because it means that they're willing to put more money into do cool things for the players that want to play the game. And all of your high rarity players, they're going to go out and they're going to buy these, or they're going to buy the singles that people are buying off of these. The secondary market's going to fluctuate. The higher stuff, The higher rarity stuff is definitely going to go up, but the regular version of those are going to either stay the same or go down. And then all the other like rares and commons and stuff like that, those are going to drop down and be worth what they're worth to players just trying to play the game. It's an accessibility thing. It means that regular products should stay in the hands of regular players, and the collector's product will stay in the hands of the collectors. And that division of lines is good for everyone, because everybody gets what they want when it comes to stuff like that. And in my opinion, that's a good thing. The last thing we have to cover here, and I'm just already in this, we're not going to switch any windows, we're just bang right on here, is an update to planetary qualifier stuff. So we're going to read this, we'll talk about it a little bit, and then we'll be done, right? That'll be the end of the conversation, because they've already addressed it, and they've already addressed other things. First, we want to thank you all for sharing your feedback on planetary qualifiers. Based on that feedback, we have some updates along with some new information to share. An additional 64 participation cards have already been sent to all planetary qualifier stores. This has been fixed for every planetary qualifier going forward, with 128 participation promos included at each event. And as an extra reward for Season 0, 6 booster displays have been sent to all planetary qualifier stores to be used as additional prize support. Bang on, right? That's what most people wanted. New participation, more participation for the participating players. Everybody should get something, right? Also, we heard the message that the cards we are providing are not as iconic as you'd hope they would be. Rest assured, our teams are already hard at work at evaluating what these cards look like for the future to better meet your expectations. Lastly, as many of you know, winners of the planetary qualifiers will receive a day 1 buy for the Galactic Championship. We're excited to share that because of that, there will be a special event for PQ winners on that first day with exclusive swag. You aren't going to want to miss this. Be sure to tune into our live stream on October 23rd, which is a couple weeks from now, to get the full download on all things related to the Galactic Championship. Thank you for sharing your feedback with us and helping to improve our programs. So all the problems that people had with PQs are basically answered in this tweet and previous information. People have constantly complained, we want more PQs. They've already addressed that. They've said multiple times there will be more PQs, starting with the next set, which is set 3. Twilight of the Republic should have basically 3 to 4 times more than what we have right now, which is good. Fantastic. Already addressed. Stop talking about it. Every player that enters a PQ is going to get a participation card, and for the Season 0 version, they're sending booster displays so that everybody should be able to get at least 1 or 2 boosters as they enter into the tournament. That's fantastic, right? You've got enough product that people can go in, get something cool, and then as they get higher and higher, they get the rewards. And then they also addressed that people didn't like Legal Authority and didn't like Dr. Evazan. They admitted that, they're working on this to try to have something that's more iconic and better for players that want to enter these things and get cool pricing. And there you go. They have answered every rational complaint about the planetary qualifiers moving forward. And this is a fantastic move for the company. It showcases that they're listening. It showcases that they know there are problems in the system. That's why we have a Season 0, which they told us when they announced Season 0 that they are having a Season 0 for this exact reason. So everybody who's up in arms just looks like an idiot, right? And that's what it comes down to is that we knew they were going to address this. I still think that the PQs were originally going to be 64 players and there were going to be more of them initially. They bumped it up to 128, had a smaller amount, and they're going to have more as they move forward. And now they've fixed the issue of now every player that shows up at a planetary qualifier will get the participation prize that they're supposed to get. Each person gets 1 copy of their card and then probably a booster pack with those things for Season 0. I wouldn't expect the booster boxes to stay in the prize support for Season 1 and on, but who knows? If it goes off with a bang and people like it, they might eat the loss and just go with that, because 6 booster displays, which is a case, so you send a case to each planetary qualifier, that ends up being like 150 cases going forward with the next thing. That's probably not that big of a deal for them to eat the loss on that, just to make people happy. So more people are buying more stuff, right? Fantastic. And with those Carbonite edition booster boxes, they'll probably make a lot more money as well. They've addressed it. We're done. That's it. They've addressed it. Everything's good. Everything's good, right? Everything's good, right? And there you have it. Previews, PQs, Carbonite editions, lots of stuff, lots of churn, lots of things that are happening in the space of Star Wars Unlimited. I'm still excited for Twilight Republic. Separatists are still seeing more good stuff than the Republic are. So at some point in time, that's got to shift, right? That's got to flip back over to the Republic getting some cool stuff and the Separatist stuff trailing off, because the Separatists can't just keep getting more cards, right? Droids can't always just be staying winning, right? That's all I have this week. Thank you very much for joining me, everybody. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for dealing with my lowish energy and all the other stuff that's going on. I managed to get all this stuff recorded correctly this time, so we are in happier days. Thank you very much for joining me, everybody. Remember to like and comment on this video. Subscribe to this Star Wars Unlimited YouTube channel for all of your Star Wars Unlimited needs. Let me know what your favorite preview, what your favorite addressment of the planetary qualifiers, and let me know rationally what your opinion on the Carbonite Edition boosters is down in the comments below. Would love to hear, converse back and forth. Be respectful, please. I'm trying to do that to you all. Please do that to me and anybody else around you. That's it. We're done. Thank you for joining me. Appreciate each and every one of you. We'll see you in the stars.